All right, today we're diving into a really strange, kind of unsettling text called the Carrion Archive. Imagine a museum, but not for art or history. It's a museum dedicated to the entire category of woman. So yeah, let's get into it.
So, right from the very first line, our guide, the docent, just drops this incredibly sharp, cynical observation. It's like she's telling us, hey, pay attention. This one tiny, absurd detail tells you everything about the system we're about to see. It's fundamentally not designed for the people it's meant to be about.
So you're probably wondering, what is this place exactly? Well, it's a museum for the whole concept of woman. And get this, the board of directors, they are literally preserved heads in jars. One of them might even be Simone de Beauvoir, though, it's unverified. And the staff? They're docents hired specifically because they're already half ghosts. It is a bizarre, deeply unsettling premise from the get-go.
Okay, so let's start the tour. We're going to look at two of the museum's most striking exhibits right off the bat, and these really set the stage for the big ideas here. This feeling of unresolved desire and all the labor that just goes completely unacknowledged.
Check this out. The first room isn't about women who wanted a specific thing. It's just women who wanted. The verb is just left hanging there, unresolved. And the exhibit itself is this endless carousel of half-woman, half-horse figures, all trapped in a scream. You can't tell if it's ecstasy or agony. It's just pure desire with absolutely nowhere to go.
So, why horses? It's actually pretty brilliant. The docent spells it out for us. Horses are powerful, right? But they get harnessed. They're wild, but they get tamed. And they can run forever, but here, they're just going around in circles. It's this perfect, kind of brutal metaphor for how female desire has been historically channeled and, contained.
The next room, Women Who Worked, takes that theme and runs with it. It presents labor as this grim, never-ending assembly line. It goes from childbirth, to typing, to sexual labor, to caring for the dying, cleaning, and the final station, just waiting. It's all the work that is so often invisible, uncompensated, and just goes on and on forever.
And here's where the docent hits us with the real gut punch. After showing all this endless, physical, and emotional labor, she makes this sharp observation. The fact that there's no station for thinking, that's not an accident. In the museum's logic, that's a feature. It defines women's labor as something purely mechanical, their entire intellectual lives just ignored.
But just when you think you've got the museum's cynical logic all figured out, the story starts to show us that the official tour isn't the whole story. You can almost feel the walls of this institution starting to crack.
So, we've seen exhibits on wanting and working. The next logical question is, what about the women who refused? Where are the women who just said no?
And the docent's answer? Exactly. The room is completely aggressively empty, because their absence is the exhibit. The museum is making a powerful point here. Women who refused were historically just erased. They were called mad or bad or simply forgotten. Their refusal was so total, they don't even get a statue.
This is where we really start to peel back the layers. The museum has its official story, but the unspoken truth is so much more cynical. That famous feminist head? Probably a budget replacement, maybe someone's aunt. The docents? They're not valued staff, they're hired specifically to fade away. And the museum itself isn't some educational institution. It's a tax shelter, a place to put all the uncomfortable history we just don't want to think about.
And right here, the whole narrative just destabilizes completely. We learn from another part of the text that our narrator, the docent, is herself unreliable and is literally disappearing. This isn't just a tour anymore. It feels like we're being led by a ghost in the machine. This leads us to the biggest pivot in the entire text. This is where the author's own voice breaks through, revealing this whole meta-narrative about the act of writing the story itself.
What a line! The author just steps right in, writing as the ghost of the influential feminist sci-fi writer Joanna Russ, and speaks directly to us. The story gets completely reframed. This isn't fiction, it's an act of channeling. She's summoning ghosts to speak about the future, and that completely changes how you experience the rest of the text.
So, what is a Carrion Archive? Well, the text defines it as a place for things we feel obligated to keep, but we don't really know what to do with. Think about that. It frames the entire museum, and maybe women's history itself, not as a proud celebration, but as a cultural burden we just feel compelled to maintain.
And this leads to one of the author's central questions. In a future where the category of woman has kind of dissolved, where it's just a series of choices or aesthetics, what happens to political rage? Who is feminism for when there's nothing left to fem? It's a really provocative question about the future of a movement.
So this brings us to the climax, where the museum stops being a static collection of objects and, well, it undergoes a shocking living transformation.
The final exhibit, Women Who Became, is this totally surreal gallery of transformation. You see figures mid-change, becoming trees, machines, animals. Some are becoming a man, and some men are becoming women. Some are dissolving into nothing, while others are exploding into everything. We're way beyond history here. This is about the complete dissolution of a stable human form.
And this leads to the docent's final, absolutely stunning realization. The museum isn't a place. It's a process. It is a living, breathing transformation that's mirroring the very subjects it's trying to contain. The archive itself is becoming.
In the final moments, the building's architecture just starts to warp and expand. And all those stories the museum tried to reject and bury in the basement, the women who killed, the women who went mad, they are forcing their way up, refusing to be contained. The archive is literally rewriting itself, live.
The author leaves us not with an answer, but with a command. Stay haunted. Be haunted by these stories, by these ghosts, by these unresolved questions. Because in the world of the Carrion Archive, confronting a past that refuses to stay buried is the only way you can stay truly alive.